All right, today what we're going to look at is mercantilism. And mercantilism, as you can see, has the word merchant in it, or part of the word merchant in it. And so, yeah, they're buying and selling things is a big part of what mercantilism is all about. Okay, so to understand mercantilism, we need to understand a little bit about the economy. And the economy is simply the study of how people manage limited resources to satisfy their wants and needs. So limited resources are things that we have in relatively small amounts. So all sorts of things we have in limited resources, just about everything. Even water to some extent is a limited resource. Certainly if you move out to the desert regions and things like that, that's why we have the cities out west often have restrictions on water usage and things of that nature. So limited resources, something that is free, air. Right now, clean air is unlimited. We have or clean enough air to breathe and to not make us sick is basically unlimited, and so we don't have it doesn't cost anything, and that's why things cost when things cost something, it's usually because it is a limited resource. And so how do we manage that? Well, we put a price on these things. And exports are simply goods that leave or are sent out of the country to other countries. And then imports are goods that are brought into a country and purchased by the businesses in this country. So that's a little bit about the economy. And mercantilism is a particular economic theory. So let's move on. And the theory behind mercantilism is that a nation becomes strong by keeping a favorable balance of trade, more exports than imports. And so you sell more goods to other countries than you buy, and therefore that creates a favorable balance of trade, and that brings in more gold to your nation. That's the theory of mercantilism. The United States does not operate on that theory because we have today we don't, because we don't have what is considered a favorable balance of trade. We buy more things than we sell. So the Navigation Acts are the way in which mercantilism was put into practice. So these are the laws that kind of make mercantilism happen, actually. So one is the theory, how it should happen, and the Navigation Acts are the way that is put into practice. So these acts regulated trade between Britain and her colonies. We're going to focus on the 13 British colonies, the American colonies. So their goal is to keep the colonies from trading with the Netherlands, France, and Spain. And so all of our resources, all of our raw materials would be primarily sent to England, and we could not sell it to anybody else but companies and businesses in England. These rules in the 1600s and early 1700s were mostly followed, except for smuggling molasses. The way the sugar taxes were at that time, nobody really followed them because it was so it would have prevented them from being successful. So the Navigation Acts were not ignored a great deal, other than with the smuggling of molasses. So, under the theory of mercantilism, who were the 13 colonies expected to trade with? Well, they're expected to trade with Britain, and Britain only. They could not send their goods to other countries, and this means they can't get as good a price as they maybe could. They only have one market to sell to, and they have to sell to the British, and this becomes more and more frustrating for the colonists. Next key question. Why did Britain participate in the theory of mercantilism? Well, they wanted to gain wealth. Their goal was to gain wealth. And the way that happens is as you're selling more exports than you are importing, so you're selling a bunch of things and you're importing a few things, you have money left over. And that means your bank account grows. And so the colonies were sending their goods to the British, which the colonies were part of that, but then the British manufactured those goods and sent them out all over the world. And they didn't buy lots of imports from other countries because they got the imports they needed from the colonies instead of from those other countries. The other thing that I haven't mentioned yet that goes right along with this is that the colonies then, the British not only sold those manufactured goods to other countries all over the world, they then turned around and sold them right back to the colonies. So they took they bought their raw materials, made it into something, and then made the colonies buy those manufactured goods. Those are the only people they could buy their manufactured goods from as well. So the last question, what were the two things that the 13 colonies were expected to provide Britain under the theory of mercantilism? To that is raw materials and markets for British finished goods. All right, next video we're going to talk about triangular trade. So y'all be good today, and tomorrow I'll see the notes that the sub left for you.